You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 409 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Juster.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Steve Sims. And if you want to learn how to be a public conversationalist, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. This is 409, and we have Steve Sims coming in today. But before we get to talking to this amazing, this guy in LA, the real life Wizard of Oz, as they call him, I want you to guys go to his website, stevedsims.com. It's on the screen underneath his picture there. Check him out. And the reason why we do our show, I'm just going to tell you, we protect freedom of speech. I think that's so essential. If you guys don't know that that's important, go check out your amendments. And freedom of speech is so important. And in chiropractic, we do protect the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, maybe go do your favorite search engine and look for BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust, and you'll find out a lot more about chiropractic. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractors. And we believe that when someone gets adjusted, it connects the man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual. And that is called innate intelligence and universal intelligence. And with that being said, Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You've done a lot of media appearances, and I'm really excited to share you with our chiropractic audience.
I have got around a little bit. Yeah. It was weird because for 25 years, including my mum and dad, most people didn't know who I was or what I did. And I was probably uber famous to maybe 150 people in the planet. So, you know, it was kind of very comical that all of a sudden I write a book, I start doing a few stages, and woof, it just suddenly takes off onto a whole new stratosphere. I remember when I wrote my book with Simon and Schuster, the art of making things happen, BLUEFISHING. They brought me into a meeting, and the head of social turned around. There was a head of social. She was like about 19 years old. She said, "You're writing a book, and you've only got 16 followers on Instagram." And we reckon about 15 of those had got confused and was following the wrong person. And I was like, yeah, I've never bothered with social. No one knows who I am. She's like, that's not very helpful when selling a book. So we had to start telling stories and doing media to get that up pretty quick. But yeah, it's I've done quite a bit of media by now.
That's super cool. But before we get into like your sweet swing of life, let's talk a little bit about how we met each other in Puerto Rico. We were at the Guardians event, and I just turned around and we were in the same line together as you guys over in England call it the queue. And I said, "Hey, my name's Jim." You're like, "Hey, I'm Steve." And kind of left it at that.
Well, I didn't know what else to say. I couldn't really say my name was Mary because it's not.
But then I had a chance to see you speak, and you were one of the keynote speakers down there. And I think you resonated really well with the group down there because you told the story of being a bricklayer, and you told the story of creating this magical experience in Florence that I want to talk to you eventually about. But I really connected with you, and I knew that you understood this media world, book writing, social media management, and podcast creation, podcast launching, and the whole media aspect of what it means to be who you were before you got more than 16 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, so, it was kind of funny. I realized I knew what I was doing by, first of all, realizing I didn't know anything. And when you don't know anything, you don't have the option of falling into the same cracks and routes that everyone else is doing. So, we'll get into it later, but yeah, it was quite a revelation to me.
So BLUEFISHING, talk about the book a little bit. The art of making things happen.
Well, as we'll go into, I've worked with some of the most powerful people in the planet, which you've probably never heard of. And I've worked with people that you have, like Elton John, Elon Musk, Sir Richard Branson. And I was the go-to Mr. Fixer to get everything from playing drums with Guns N' Roses to seeing the Titanic to getting front row seats for the Paris Fashion Week. Anything that you could afford, I could make happen. And along the way, I knew people. And one day I'm in a party and someone said, "Hey, you should write a book." And I thought nothing of it. I literally was drinking my old fashioned and I went, maybe. A week later, I got a contract from Simon & Schuster. And it turned out that the lady I was talking to at the party was one of the heads of the company. And she offered me a book deal. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll see what this is like. I'll write a book. And I did it. And the beautiful thing, and this is a very important point to remember, they paid me well. Now, that's not trying to be egotistical. That's not trying to flaunt how much money I had. But when a book comes out, you either get paid to write the book or you get paid from the book sales. Now, if you get paid from the book sales, you have to write a book that will sell. I didn't care because I'd already been paid, which meant that I could write the book I wanted to write. And if it sold, great. If it didn't sell, gives a shit. I've already been paid. So I was able to put everything I wanted to on paper with no care if it was going to be socially accepted or anything. And to be honest with you, I thought to myself, maybe I'll sell 500 copies. And I think the first month I sold 300. And then the next month, I think I sold 400. And I was already impressed with that. But when I contacted Simon & Schuster and I said, "Hey, we've nearly done 1,000 copies," they were like, "Yeah, great." And based on the amount of money they had paid me, that was pretty bad. But luckily, the third month, I think we sold 8,000 copies and it just took off from there. So they're happy. They got their money back. And I'm happy because I didn't dilute what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And your message from the stage down there in Puerto Rico stood on the shoulders of that giant idea, is say what you want to say, connect with your audience. And, when you think about it, public speaking and how it correlates into chiropractic, maybe we can share some tips and strategies for my audience from your expertise on how they can create some anchor statements and they can create some momentum with their ideas to communicate chiropractic more effectively and to get people excited about this amazing profession and not just like, oh, maybe they can get my back out of pain, or, ooh, maybe they can help with my headache.
Yeah, and I think we need to kind of like revisit the word public speaker. A public speaker is anyone that needs to speak in public, which could be your office. It could be on Wembley Stadium. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're speaking to thousands of people. But here's the difference. I never liked the word speaker because I don't want to speak at you. I want to have a conversation with you. And in today's social world, if you focus on making sure you're having a conversation, even if you're doing a video, do a video based on the problem people are having and solve that problem in the video and resonate with them by helping them. So if you focus not only in spouting out wisdom or repeating great one-liners from a book that was written 50 years ago, and more focus on actually connecting with your viewer, with your audience, that's what it's all about today. I don't think we should be called speakers anymore. I think we should be called conversationalists.
So learn how to be a public conversationalist.
Bingo. You see me speak, okay? I have openly gone on stages before and gone, "Hey, I hate giving speeches, so I'm not going to. But we're going to spend the next hour having a conversation. How would you feel about that? And you know for a fact that when I was giving my speech, I was interacting with the community. I was asking them, have you been to Florence? Have you done this? I was bringing the audience into the conversation. I wasn't just standing up there with a chart going, and on the left, we have these 3 bullet points. And on the right, we have the... I wasn't giving you a presentation. I was having a conversation with the audience, wasn't I?
Yeah, that's what I think resonated with us. And one of the reasons I knew that you'd be a dynamic guest to be on our show, because I said, wow, if this guy can deliver that much value with his talk to our audience, what would it be like if we could have people learn from him at a wider scale and open up a net for you to find people to work with through my network? I think that that would be the ideal game changer for the mentality behind the chiropractic profession, is having a trusted resource that can help build the scaffolding up and help create a masterpiece of knowledge. And it's not an empty promise. It's like you said, the audience is their practice. The audience is their chamber of commerce. The audience could be a stage in Puerto Rico. The audience is the farmer's market. The audience is the person in line at the grocery store. It's a constant audience, and it's a constant conversation.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I suppose we should also, we mentioned Puerto Rico a few times. We should give a big whoop to Thaddeus Gala, who actually put on the Guardians retreat. So he put on a fantastic event. You know, I was up there, Pat Hilton, Gary V, Thaddeus was obviously up there. You know, there were some tremendous people up there. So it was a great event by Thaddeus. So thanks for Thaddeus for inviting me to speak at the event, because if he hadn't of, we wouldn't have met.
Yeah, you know, and that's just it, is when you put yourself into new rooms with people of influence, you never know who you're going to meet. Just like your story goes full circle, meeting the book publisher with Simon & Schuster. You put yourself there.
Yeah, I've always believed. Yeah, I've always believed that if you know great people and you're in great rooms, great things happen.
Yeah, because usually it takes a lot of effort to get yourself to that place, that location, and then to participate at a high level takes a lot of your own capacity to be able to show up the right way and to be of value, not just the taker.
Yeah.
So, coaching. What you don't like public speaker? Do you like the word coaching?
I think I do. Yeah, no, exactly. I like to disrupt things. I think I do because I realized I was an arrogant little shit that suddenly realized I could have saved years had I got coached earlier. So I currently I have 3 coaches. So I have 3 coaches that focus on different parts of my life. I coach a lot of other people, and through Sims Media, we actually work with a lot of different companies. We work with a lot of chiropractors and home offices as well. So I think coaching is not something that you should ever ask yourself, is it worth it? It's more of a case of, when is it worth it? It's not a case of whether you need a coach. It's a case of when you need a coach. So everyone should be coached if they are aggravated enough to demand more of themselves, their tribe, their people, their business, their family. So coaching is very important. And let's be serious. We can make more money. We can't make more time. So the whole point of a coach is to basically get you there quicker.
That's really good advice. So you mentioned that some of your clients are chiropractors. What has your experience been like so far working with that niche group?
Well, it's a niche group, but it carries the same problems of pretty much every other business in the planet. The point is to how to convey your solution to the audience you want. So a lot of people, let's look at some of the mistakes they make. They try to make themselves look and act and sound a certain way. So, You know, they try to go, well, I'm a chiropractor, therefore I better always have a white coat on, and I better always look important, and I better do all of my videos in the reception area of my office so everyone can see how wonderful. That's all about you. No one gives a toss. What we care about is how can you fix us? That's all we care about. I don't care if you're in a shed. If you're the greatest chiropractor on the planet, I'm coming to you. So what we focus on when we're dealing with businesses, and especially chiropractic businesses, because you can't create a transaction. You can't go to a restaurant and go, hey, here's the ingredients, here's the recipe, go forth and make the meal. With a chiropractor, you've got to succumb to them knowing what they're doing. So you've got to lead with knowledge, education, and authority, and display it in a manner that means the audience is going to go, this is the person for me. And sadly, you overcomplicate that shit by focusing on how your hair is that day before you put that picture up on your website.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West. Let's hustle. So, do you create a content strategy map for the chiropractors that you work with so they're able to produce on this level and not feel stressed out by content creation and production?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you're speaking, obviously you've got education in the media, so you're using the terminology exactly of that. But to make it easier, we tell the people what they should be doing video and content on. And if they can do the content, then we can splice it up and distribute it across all of our socials, our websites, and get them the clients really that they deserve, and not necessarily the clients that they are getting. See, a lot of people, you're correct, a lot of people will sit there and they'll go, oh my God, I don't know what to do content on. Well, let me give you a freebie. Go onto Google and ask the 10 questions people ask about chiropractors. There's 10 pieces of content. The 4 mistakes you make when picking the wrong chiropractor. There's 4 pieces of content. If you go onto Google, and there's a website, for argument's sake, called Answer the Public, it will tell you the top questions being searched on Google for any industry in the planet, no matter what the industry is. And when you actually do a video that answers the #1 searched question, then it will populate you higher because you're answering the #1 question asked. Your SEO will go up, and that's search engine optimization. People will find you and people will book you. And then you start marketing to your local vicinity. One of the mistakes I see is a lot of people just market willy-nilly, and you've got some guy called Bo in the Philippines that's watching your video going, oh, that's fantastic, but you're in Idaho, so he's never going to visit you. So you need to do the right content and then distribute to the right clientele.
And I think that's knowing your audience. And earlier I did an interview with a gal, and she said, make it for your perfect practice member. She's like, I hate the word avatar. Do you like the word avatar?
Avatars, a lot of people look at different avatars. I look at an aspirational avatar. I don't look at the avatar of a perfect client. I look at the avatar as who my perfect client wants to be, and I aim for that. It's like the classic footballer. You never pass the ball to your partner. You pass it to where he's going to be. So you go for the avatar that wants to get there, and you meet them there. So I think avatar is just an easier to understand word. I don't have as much of a problem with that as I do with some of the other terminologies.
So how about the terminology podcasting? Let's talk about that for a little bit. I know you teach people how to develop podcasts and to launch them, and you have your own. What has your experience been like so far hosting a podcast? And do you prefer doing the solo shows or interview shows?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. So I don't have any sponsorship on my podcast. I don't want any sponsorship on my podcast. I don't want to make any money on my podcast. I set up a podcast because I wanted an excuse for me to have a drink with people that I wanted to talk with. And so it was just a shallow reason for me to have a conversation. I honestly didn't think anyone was going to listen to it, watch it, subscribe to it. If you want to subscribe to it, go to stevedsims.com, click the button podcast, and you can see all the shit there. But it was just a way for me to have a conversation. And here's something that I noticed. I always look for the break point. I always look, your weakest link dictates the strength of your chain. We all know that. Why do so many podcasts fail? It's because every single week, you've got to get an interesting guest. And let's be blunt, me and you, we've been in the podcasting world. Not every guest has been interesting. And you can meet them and they can appear interesting. They can sound interesting. And you get them on a podcast and you realize that they're dead ducks. They're just useless. And so I decided that I didn't want that to be an issue. So every now and then I'd go on a meeting. I'd come out of a restaurant. I'd come off stage. I was going on to stage and someone would ask me a question. And I would literally just pick up this thing here, which is the greatest piece of machinery in the planet, your iPhone. And I actually have a Shure mic that goes into here, which gives brilliant sound quality. And I would literally just go, hey, I'm here. I'm just about to go and speak at Thaddeus Garla's Guardians Retreat here in Puerto Rico. But I just met up with Jim. Jim was asking me this about, and you know, it made me think, and I will just spew. And I will just do a podcast and just on the spot go, hey, I hope that helps you with your problem. Bang. And then I will just upload it to my team and they will tart it up and get it ready for a podcast. But I found by having my own, what we call nugget episodes, it took the stress away from me. And I've just done a podcast actually that was 3 hours. And I did it with Sammy the Bull Gravano, who was the hitman to the mafia and worked directly for John Gotti. 3 hours. And our first episode, I think, went up today, which is about 35 minutes. And the rest of the two are going to be split up with future episodes. And I've done other podcasts, which I think my shortest one was 4 minutes. So I basically think as long as I'm creating impact, keep the record button on. The second I'm just talking in the weeds, shut it off.
So I love the way that you reframe your message to your audience. You look for their pain points and find solution. I think something that is exceptional about you is you give a solid exit message and you allow people to join and subscribe without feeling forceful. You allow people to flow into your Bluefish systems, and you allow people to participate with you based on willingness and not wantingness. I think a lot of times when people create media, they want people to like them. They want people to subscribe and follow. They want people to comment and share. Like it almost gets to the point that it's almost at the end of their exit talk, they're over the top begging, and they're begging for people to just
needy.
like them. Yeah. And have you seen that as a consistent theme with a lot of the people that consider themselves producers and influencers?
Well, the trouble is most producers and influencers make money from being producers and influencers. And I've always thought to myself, wouldn't it be really cool if an influencer had to have actually achieved something before they were allowed to call themselves an influencer? Like for me, Jeff Bezos is an influencer. Elon Musk is an influencer. Jean-Paul DeJoria is an influencer. Some tarp dressed up in a bikini on the edge of a beach telling me about be one with yourself and, you know, be proud to, just because she read it on the back of a bus somewhere, that's not an influencer. So I'm a great believer that today we should actually focus on where the message is coming from and where it's trying to direct us. You see, I've got very successful businesses. I'm 55. I live up in the hills. I've got loads of bikes. I've got loads of whiskey. I'm good. Okay. So the bottom line of it is, I'm not here going, hey, if you like my message, please buy my hair products. I don't give a shit. I want you to listen to this conversation because Jim's orchestrated it, and for you to go away and go, I'm going to try something a bit different. And that's my gain. That's my benefit. If you need help, hey, you'll come to me at the media company or whatever, but I want you to try it first.
I really like that. And that tees me up for the next transition on our talk today is the speakeasy.
Oh, goody.
I think that's something that you've done very successfully is you've created these speakeasy pop-up events, and you help people find their voice, and you let them become the voice that they want to become, and make sure that they're seen, understood, and acknowledged for who the hell they are.
I laughed when you mentioned that, and I laugh every time I have to speak about it because we've been doing them for 4.5 years now. Luckily, we never even stop. We do them 3 times a year. They go all around America. During COVID, we managed to find places in America that weren't shut down. We ended up in Arizona, Vegas, Nashville. You know, we traveled around, and we always do. But I put this event together as a bit of satire, a bit of fun, because I got invited to an event, and the event told me where it was, the address, who was speaking, where the after party was. It told me everything for then me to make a decision as to whether or not I wanted to go. And I thought to myself, why do I want to go to any event? And the only reason should be to enhance your network and to solve some problems. If I want to learn about, I don't know, podcasting, and Jim's got an event going on and he's talking about podcasting, hey, I have a problem. I'm going to go to Jim's event. I'm going to learn. I'm going to bring it home. I'm going to action it. No more problem. So I thought to myself, surely the whole reason of going to an event is to solve the problem, not just to see, you know, Billy on stage touting about how rich and famous he is. Who cares? That doesn't help you. So I put an event together called a speakeasy. I didn't expect it to sell a ticket. Truthfully, I thought maybe I'll sell 3 tickets just from people that are close to me that, you know, feel embarrassed for me. But I put this event together and it literally said $2,000. And the first one was in San Diego on these 2 dates. Pay here. I'll tell you the details later. And that was it. And then I did a video, and the video just said, I'm not going to tell you shit, so don't ask me any questions, but answer this one. What is your problem that I could solve at this event? And I did this little video, and that was it. And what was that, like 23 seconds? And I posted it. And we got 40 people sign up. And we contacted every single one of them going, hey, you don't know where it is. You know the city, but you don't know where it is. You don't know who's going to be there. You paid $2,000. That ain't cheap. Why? And that why was where all the beauty came. They went, well, actually, I'm having problems with public speaking. I'm having problems with expanding my business, doing Google adverts, doing this, doing it. And they gave me all of their problems. Now, in giving me your problems, I can pick up my little phone book here and I can get 10 top-level educators, because I only know the best and the best, and they can come in to answer your problems. And it took off. And of course, the next one, again, I didn't tell anyone, but of course, any attendee was like, you got to go to this event. You have no idea who's going to be there. And nor do I. I don't know who's going to be there until you tell me your problem. We got one coming up in October in Los Angeles, and we probably got about space for maybe 12 educators that are going to be speaking at that event. But I'm telling you, hand on heart, we've only booked 3, because those are the 3 that are answering the problem. So as we get closer, the event's not until October, but as we get closer to the event, I'll have more of an understanding of the range of problems. and I can bring those people in to answer the problems. So we focus on the fact that a speakeasy will answer your problem rather than having you dancing around and clapping like a demented sea lion.
I freaking love this. What are the dates in LA? Do you know?
17th and 18th of October. And if you go to simsspeakeasy.com, you'll find all of the little detail that we give. And when I say little detail, I challenge you, Jim. You visit that website and see if you've ever seen less written about an event ever. We've actually tried to see how little we can get away with on that page. It literally says it says the city, the date, and then there's a pay button. That's it.
Well,
but I've got to tell you this. There is a really cool video. If you look underneath that in the small print, and there's only a little bit of small print, but there'll be a link there that says, what is a speakeasy? Click on that and watch the video. I think you'll enjoy the video.
Well, the reputation precedes the event. So well done, Anya. Congratulations on what you've been able to do for so many people and yourself. I think you were the curious one that cracked the code for yourself and said, hey, I know how to do stuff. I want to teach other people how to do stuff. And whether it's building a brick wall or building a media empire, I think that we have to crack the code. And so many people call it reverse engineering. And when you know someone's problem, guess what you can do? You can reverse engineer it. You can find out how they make the sausage. And not many people want to know how they do that, but they want to know what you want to know is what is your biggest pain point? And then you find that pain point and then you learn how to calm it with a strategy to produce around that, which I think is really cool. I know that there's a lot of things that we want to talk about, but today is Taco Tuesday, and I know you like tacos. But can we close out with one last question?
Do it.
Creating the impossible. You did something in Florence. Would you tell us the story of how you had a dinner in front of the statue of David?
Well, I can't now because you just gave it away. I like to go for the ridiculous. In fact, my book comes out in October, my second book called Go for Stupid, which is so simply this mindset of how far can I push things? And then when they fail, I'll achieve something ridiculous, but it'll be achieved. So I had a client that said to me, he wanted to have a dinner in Florence. Dining experience was his words that showed how powerful he was. So I ended up taking over the Accademia de Galleria, closed a museum down 3:00 in the afternoon till I think 2:00 in the morning. But it's the famous museum that houses Michelangelo's David. And this museum, this statue is the most iconic statue in the planet. And I set up a table of 6 at the feet of Michelangelo's David. The client turned up at 9:00 in the evening. And then halfway through his dinner, I walked out and I said to him, it's very quiet. Would you mind if I got a local singer to serenade you during your pasta? And my client was like, yeah, sure, that'd be good. He had no idea what I was doing. And I brought in Andrea Bocelli to serenade him while they were eating their dinner. And here's the funny thing that made me giggle. The statue is marble. Every one of the other statues around the Accademia de Galleria on that ground floor is marble. The floor is marble. The ceiling is marble. So you get an idea of how shit the acoustics are in this marble room. So as he walks in, my client's fiance drops a fork, and it felt like it was 10 minutes that thing echoed around this bloody room. It was so funny. She was so embarrassed, but it was a fantastic event.
So that was the grand finale, folks. Steve Sims, thank you for being on. We kept it real. You started out really awesome with me. The midway was powerful. We told some chiropractors some actionable stuff. Google might be their best friend. And you delivered. I appreciate the opportunity to have you on to episode 409. And with that, I'm going to close out by telling people you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. The comments will have your websites in there. Thank you, Steve.
Cheers, man. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.